we'll give it a few minutes to let people tune in. I'll let
Sure.
y'all know when we start getting some viewers.
Well, there we go.
Ralph, you gonna share it around, or
Say that again.
you gonna share it to the groups?
Yeah. We'll do that.
All right, we're starting to get a few viewers tuning in. So, hey Joe, hey Chris. We'll give it a few more minutes, and then we'll introduce you, Shon, and we'll get everything rolling. People are signing on left and right. So, good evening, everyone. Ralph's just doing some sharing right now, and then we'll get started. Hey, Jason Byer, how you doing?
Just I'm doing some
So, is it hot up there, Shon?
It was pretty warm today. It was in the 90s, but it wasn't as humid as it has been, and a really good breeze. So, got some stuff done outside.
It was brutal here.
I know it doesn't look like there's any end in sight for a while.
No, not down here.
No.
All right, for those of you just tuned in, hey Chris, Ashley, Tristan, how y'all doing? For everyone that's tuning in right now, give us just a few minutes. Ralph Bennett is sharing the post around, and then we'll get started as soon as he's ready. Michael Beck says it was tolerable even for him. Hey, he was complaining when it was 65 degrees in PA. Randy Vick said he's under the fan. Hey, Dave Foyer, Randy, Mike, Alguire, how you doing?
It's anytime it gets above 70 degrees on us mountain boys, it's kind of hot.
Yeah.
So.
I would take 70 degrees right now, trust me.
I figure.
Michael Beck said it was 80. Man, that'd be nice.
I'll take 80. I don't know if we're going to get that for that testing weekend this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny.
Yeah.
Is your Mullins isn't pulling up?
Yeah, it's already live on it.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm
hey,
done.
Chris Wilson made it. Oh, he said he's dropping in for a few minutes, then off to work. Hey, Brent, how you doing? You ready, Ralph?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So this evening we have Shon Butler of Longspur Tracking Group. Well, I guess it's more than just tracking, isn't it, Shon?
We do a little bit of everything, it seems like here. We do tracking dog training. We have our scent training line that we started. And, of course, we do our drone now. We've been doing lost pet searches throughout the summer here, at the start of the summer. It's actually been kind of busy and getting ready to gear up for Ohio and Kentucky with it. So there's a lot to Longspur.
Oh, yeah. So Shon, give us a little background about yourself for the people that may not know who you are, and where you came from, and just a little bit about your history.
Okay, I'm a West Virginia boy, born and bred here. I live in Buchanan, West Virginia, and that's where I was raised at. Right in the central part of the state. Spent all my early years with a BB gun in my hand and running the mountains down here like a wild kid. Thought I was a long hunter. Associated with dogs from an early age. Always had coon dogs around and squirrel dogs like crazy. That was a big pastime here in the mountains, was squirrel hunting with dogs. graduated high school in 1990 and joined the United States Air Force and spent 8 years in there. Came out, began at a small college in Glenville, West Virginia, and I got my forestry degree and business management degree. And then I went out to Idaho and got my master's degree in biology. Came out of school and worked for West Virginia Division of Forestry for several years as a fire forester and fire investigator, all the while raising and training English setters, English Springer Spaniels, and labs. I was real big into grouse and woodcock hunting and also waterfowl. Got into training other people's dogs at that time. Wasn't like a full-time gig or anything. It was just taking one in here and there, and especially grouse dogs. We just take them out, really get them into grouse. Went from that and jumped into being an environmental inspector on the pipelines, which was a great job. Always outside, always walking. And then in 2020, when the whole COVID deal came down, I got laid off. About 3 weeks before that, we had decided to buy our first Yawg Terrier and really commit to tracking and getting a really good bloodline dog and going from there. But when I got laid off, it became like, okay, am I going to be able to go back to work? What's this world coming to? And Chrissy, who she's not in here right now, she and I decided, well, we need to maybe rely on ourselves instead of relying on somebody else for a living. We had, up to that point, the 4 years prior, really pushed for legislation in West Virginia to legalize tracking. And in that January, Governor Justice had signed a bill, legalized it. And we said, well, maybe we could track. When he had signed that bill, they had thrown a stipulation in there that we had to have an outfitting license in West Virginia to track. And for the first 2 years, we were the only licensed outfitters to track in the state. So we had, I guess you'd call it a cornered market. And a nice thing under that license, it allows us to hire guides. And those guides can be other trackers. So we have hired and currently have over 25 trackers in the state of West Virginia that work for us. And
so is the outfitter license a requirement to operate as a business, or is it? I mean, can you track without one? I mean, a lot of people may not understand the laws there.
Right. Okay. Very good question and good one to jump into, because I get this a lot throughout social media. People wanting to know, especially in the border states. You do not have to have an outfitting license to track. You must have one to be able to charge or accept any consideration from the hunter. That includes if he invites you out for a meal, you have to have an outfitter's license. It's a very strict law. Our bear law concerning outfitting for bears is wrote exactly the same way. So it's a very strict, you can't accept tips. You can't take any consideration. You can't take a bag of dog food unless you have that outfitter's license or you're on one of the outfitter's guide lists that's registered with DNR.
Gotcha. And is there any other stipulations involved in that, or is it just the outfitter license?
No, it's just the outfitter license. We had tried, as we talked with the legislature, DNR back in the day, to push for third-party testing. We did not get that at that time. We have tried since then and did not get that. But we would like to see a little, reining in a little bit. The outfitting license helps to rein in, but we'd like to see the trackers here be educated, know what they're doing.
Yeah. So I guess what I was getting at, is there any insurance requirements or?
Right. Only if you are charging to track and you're an outfitter, the outfitter carries the insurance that covers his guys. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that was my understanding. So I didn't know if
Right.
other people knew that or not. So where did that come from? You know, where was their mindset there? Do you know?
No, I don't. Well, kind of and no, I'll tell you. We pushed for an open law where anybody could track, but we were looking for that third party testing. When it went through the legislature, they dropped the third party testing and didn't include it in the bill. It went through the first reading and the second reading as a clean bill. When it got to the third reading, the West Virginia Bear Hunters Association came down and told the legislature, and they are a very strong hunting group in the state of West Virginia. They control a lot. They said, we want you to be able to license trackers somehow that are going to be charging money. We want you to keep a thumb on them. And that's where that came from. So the DNR structured it under our outfitting license instead of creating a new one.
Okay, we had a question come in that's related to this. I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's from Andrew Mullins. Says, I wonder if they have to have an outfitter license for the whole state or whether there's different zones like Colorado.
You have to have an outfitter license for the whole state. And when you get one, it's good for the whole state.
Okay.
Let me ask, I'm just curious myself.
Sure.
How many outfitters are there that, as far as for the tracking?
As far as I know, there's 4. And 2 of them one's myself and Chrissy. I have John Hockaday, who's my right-hand guy. I know Brandon C. is one, and then there's another group down in southern West Virginia that have a license.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
there's
We
4.
Darren Miner said, I believe there are a lot of sub requirements pertaining to the license.
Yeah. To get a license, you, of course, you have to carry. I believe it's $2 or $3 million worth of liability insurance. Where they didn't break us out in any kind of classes or groups. We have to have the same liability that a whitewater raft guide has to have, which doesn't make much sense to me since we're going to somebody else's property to track. But yeah, we have to have insurance. We have to be bonded by the Secretary of State. And to take our bond if we ever break the law, such as if we track off lead because we're an on lead state and we're caught, boom, our $10,000 bond is gone. We also have to have CPR, first aid. All my trackers have to have that. And we have to submit a equipment list to the DNR per year. They have to come in and inspect our equipment.
Now, what do you mean as far as equipment?
Whatever we're using, that goes from vehicles to ATVs to Garmin collars, alphas, long leads, harnesses. They come and look at all of it and make sure everything's in working order.
Do
wow,
they have
what an overreach.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Do they have requirements for you
Such
as far as the equipment?
No, they do not. Not in tracking. Other than we have to track on lead. That's the only requirement they have of us.
So all the equipment,
Wow.
that's just up to you, but they can check it.
Yes, because we have to list, in order to gain an outfitter's license, list what we use in our business. And when they come, they look at your vehicles, make sure you have current inspection stickers, make sure your licenses are current, make sure you have insurance on your vehicles. They are very thorough. I will give them that.
Wow.
That's just crazy. Talk about government overreach.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
so there's a lot of associated cost and a lot of time involved to have that outfitter license.
Yes, there is. There is. Just as an example, our license, the license fee itself is $10. That's it. But the insurance and the bond per year, you're talking anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 per year. And this isn't one of those insurance deals that you pay monthly. They want that up front before they put that stuff in force. So right. It's a pretty good chunk of change to put out there.
So we have a couple of questions coming in, and I think this is a good one that a lot of people have sent in early. It's from Mike Alguire. It says, you keep referring to your trackers. Are you meaning that they are like your employees on a payroll, or do they have to pay you to be under your permit, or what's the deal there? And that's something, a lot of questions that came in
Right.
before this.
Well, what we did, and that first year here, as Chrissy and I started tracking, we were it. I didn't know anybody else that was tracking in the state. And throughout that first year, we met 2 or 3, one of them being John Hockaday that was tracking, and he didn't realize you had to have all this stuff, all these licenses. And he was advertising that he was charging on social media. And I gave him a call and said, hey, John, I don't know you. I'd like to talk to you, but be careful advertising. You're going to get slammed. And so we started talking, and he said, well, how about I just come work for you? So we came up with this system. Since we are allowed as an outfitter to hire guides, we take on trackers throughout the state of West Virginia. They do not pay like a yearly fee at all. They pay a per track fee, and that covers their insurance costs through my insurance. We also advertise for them in their different areas. We also provide them with rack cards, business cards to put out in their areas. And we promote them on social media heavily. Of course, my better trackers pay in more. The ones that are serious and doing 100 tracks a year, they pay in, and they really help us out to promote Longspur. But we have guys that do 10 or 15 tracks. We don't ask them to pay anything up front. If they do 10 tracks and they pay us at $25 a track, and that's their contribution for the year, that's fine. We don't push them. I'm not out there saying, hey, you got to do this many tracks, because that's not what we're in it for on that part. I mean, it's part of the business. It helps pay for our insurance. And as we expanded out, went to other states, we've had those trackers. They pay in 25 as well. And what we do with that money is pull it and go to outdoor expos such as Harrisburg, PA, and we promote those trackers in that area. So it's a system we're using and using all over the country. It seems to be working pretty good. But yeah, it started out with trackers just paying $25 a track, and that covers them under our insurance in West Virginia and under our license.
What a lot of people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What a lot of people don't know, how much of your time is to Longspur?
How much of my time is to Longspur?
I mean, do you have another job?
No, I do not. This is our full-time job. We track, we train dogs, and we raise and breed our own line of dogs. It's 100% what we do is anything associated with Longspur.
Okay. So Darren Miner put a comment on here. He said, I know Shon did a lot to get tracking legalized in West Virginia, which is his home state.
Right.
The state doesn't make it easy. And we've had that discussion with you, and it sounds like y'all.
We're trying. I mean, we keep trying. We're trying to improve things here. And Darren and I have actually talked on the phone about that. He's actually was born and raised about 20 miles from where I live at here. And, we always wanted to have a little bit of, requirements or some kind of licensing, but we didn't know they would go as strict as they did. They looked around. They were trying to model when the West Virginia bear hunters came to them. They said they were modeling New York, but I actually think we're a little more stricter than New York in ways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I haven't looked everywhere, but I've never heard you're the strictest right now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's going to bring up another question, Shon, that a lot of people messaged in. And, they, myself included, we spoke on the phone about this. I spoke with John Hockaday earlier last week. So a lot of people doesn't understand the business model, the reason behind it. And, you're touching on a lot of it right now, obviously with all the requirements. But
But one thing I wanted to touch on is what do you do to develop trackers, or do you do anything to develop trackers?
No, that's a great question. Since we did not get third-party testing in West Virginia, as we developed Longspur, and as we brought in our first core of trackers that first year, Chrissy, John Hockaday, and I talked, what can we do? How can we improve this? And we decided to start bringing in apprentices into our group. And those apprentices are people with pups or young dogs that are wanting to learn. As we did that, we approached another national tracking organization to come down to West Virginia and help us out and do some testing. And we got shot down on that. We're told we would have to travel. At that time, the closest track fest was Missouri, Tracker Symposium. That's a 12-hour drive for our guys and gals that are working, for us and our apprentices. And these are blue-collar workers that don't get, a lot of them working 6-7 days a week, that don't get that time to go. And so we pushed and pushed to get that testing here in West Virginia, and we just couldn't get it done. And I felt at the time we kind of got shunned a little bit. So we saw we were leading the tracking businesses in West Virginia, that we were the people everybody were looking to. So we wanted to develop a pretty strict system of growing talent. And so we'd bring people on, work with them for a year, track with them with their dog, or they'd go with our dog if their dog was too young, watch how we're reading dogs, or we go with them and tell them, hey, what's your dog doing now, as they're out there on actual tracks. The second year, we developed our own testing system here in West Virginia. We test Longspur trackers. We've tested several people outside of the Longspur system that just wanted to test their dog in West Virginia.
That was another hot topic that came through my messages, was a question of, why did you start your own testing system when there was another one out there, which we did the same thing. I mean, and we shared those reasons, but also, what is the testing requirements?
Okay, we have 3 levels of testing, and our wounded, it's called wounded game testing. If somebody comes to us and they say, I have a versatile dog, surprise me on the track, we'll actually maybe do a bear track or an elk track. And we have everything here to do that. But for the most part, it's 90% whitetail testing. The first requirement is WGT1. We're looking for pups there that are 6 months or older to take that test. If they are less than that, as long as they're showing talent, we'll let the person come and try it. It's a 500-yard minimum. It is, and I don't have my notes here in front of me, so I'm trying to remember all the requirements. 4-hour minimum delay. And I think it is a 1 ounce of blood or less on it. On the whitetail side, if they want, we will put down interdigital. We have.
Ooh.
Oh, lost you there.
And that were beginner. We have our WGT2, which is a little harder test. It's an 8-hour delay. It has a couple wound beds on it. It is blood, 1 ounce or less, interdigital. You got to find the 2 wound beds. It will have a distraction on it from most of the time it's a live animal on it. And it's a minimum of 800 yards, can go further. WGT3, we think is one of the hardest tests out in the U.S. right now. It's a 24-hour delay. It's a minimum of 1,000 yards. I don't think we've ever set one less than 1,400. And 1,400 yards in the mountains, that's a distance. It's a pretty good distance. But it is 3/4 of an ounce of blood or less on that track. And I think it said 24-hour delay plus interdigital. The tracker goes by themselves on that track. We put Garmin on the dog, and the judge watches the track on an alpha. He drops the tracker off at the impact and meets the tracker at the deathbed. And the tracker has 2 wound beds. He must find one of them and return wound bed marker. And he also has 5 trail markers. He must return 3 of the 5 trail markers. And then we look, if they make it to the deathbed, we look at the track on the alpha versus where the dog was, the amount of the track markers brought back, and that determines a pass or fail on that one. So that's our 3 levels in a nutshell.
Okay, we got a lot of questions coming in. I'm going to hop back. There's one I wanted to touch on. This is more of a statement from John Hockaday as the inspection. He said, as they checked my equipment, I felt that they were using the moment to meet myself, and the eyes on my equipment helped them see I was legit, maybe. Just a feeling that he got. They even checked it side by side. Right. Which that makes sense. Like they're just checking up, make sure this is legitimate. Chris Hampton says, does all the trackers share in the cost of the insurance, license, etc.? You kind of touched on that. That's what the $25 per track fee goes towards, that plus some marketing and advertisement, all that. So London Young asks, what does your insurance cover?
That's a good question. It's a full liability insurance. And from what I understand, if we have any type of accident, and that's human or dog, it will cover those accidents. It also covers liability, like if, say, a dog would break loose and kill a farmer's goat or something, it would, it covers that. Covers any injuries while we're out there, such as somebody twists a knee and needs to go to the doctor. It's going to cover that. So it's a complete liability insurance policy.
Okay. So we'll move on to some more questions, try to get caught up here.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, they're flying in. So Matt Cass says, jumped on late, but did I hear $25 a track back to you to pay for your travel and time to Harrisburg show, etc.? And that fee goes towards promotion, whether they track 15 times a year, 100 times a year. Does that hold true for a first-year tracker that only hits the line 15 times a year?
We kind of started touching about apprentices in our structure. Our apprentices do not charge. We don't allow them to charge, only accept tips. I do not charge them a track fee. We want them to be comfortable, not thinking about book work and do I owe something here or what. No, we just want them to go out and track that first year and work their way out of being an apprentice to becoming a tracker in our system. And in our Longspur system, we have 4 levels. We have apprentice, we have tracker, we have our head trackers, which are pretty active guys that have that do, that 60 to 100 tracks a year. Plus they are our mentors and have about 10 or 12 trackers under them. And then we have currently 5 master trackers in our business that are guys that have over 50 recoveries on one dog that they've trained. But we look at them and see if they have a couple hundred lifetime recoveries throughout tracking. And those guys are some of the guys that are pretty bright and mentoring the whole group. So.
Yeah, that was a question that I had is what is your criteria for each level of tracker that you have? Because I hear master tracker, I hear apprentice. What do you look for in criteria?
An apprentice comes on if they have a young pup that they're just going to be training throughout the hunting season. They're going to spend a whole hunting season as an apprentice. But if they come in and they have a 7-8 month old dog that's tested out, they're going to probably spend until the first 5 or 6 weeks of the tracking season as an apprentice if they get out and track. If they get out and track and prove themselves, they're going to get bumped up to tracker. We're looking.
So what are you looking for as far as proving themselves?
We're looking for them to get about 10 or 12 recoveries in those first 6 weeks. We want them to run about 20 to 25 tracks in that time period. If they can have the time to do it. If they have the time to do it. We don't push them to do it. And then if that production's there, I also like to see them, and my master trackers like to see them take a loss. In other words, maybe leave one in the field and see how they handle it. See if they want to quit, or see if it's like, okay, I got to do this better. And they're on the phone with me or one of the master trackers or one of the head trackers saying, what did I do wrong? How did I leave this one in the field? Because it can't all be set up on accomplishments. There has to be some failure, and you got to know how people handle that. So
So is there not a set guideline? Is it just a case by case? Is it how much
it's a case by
case versus that person? Or are you looking for?
It's not the like. Yeah, it's not the like. It's looking at their commitment to tracking overall. They may go out and be really committed and run 15 tracks and recover 5 deer and really that's what their job allows them to do. And they may be deserving of getting bumped up. Okay. But we do like to see them do that 25 tracks in those first 6 weeks and get really involved. And when they get really involved, they're vested and interested, and they're going to make a good tracker. And we haven't made too many mistakes bumping apprentices up. I've never had to bump anybody back down. So.
Gotcha. So we had a few questions come in. Jason Byer asked, how many tracks a year does Longspur go on average?
That's a good question. We did, I'm trying to think, right around 950 tracks last year as a company. That was with 3,500 phone calls coming in the state of West Virginia, almost 4,000 coming in from Ohio and the surrounding states. We do deep interview. I don't consider it cherry picking. I've heard that accusation before. I leave it up to my guys. If they interview a hunter and they decide they want to go on a track, they can go on a track. But as a wildlife biologist, if I feel, and if they're calling me, if this hunter is, which a lot of the calls that, I don't want to call them turning them down, but educating them. If they say, I shot this buck at 30 yards in the shoulder, I got 3 inches of penetration, I've already tracked him 500 yards, will you come track him? I could run out and take $200. I could. And they would pay it, and I could give them the same education I could give them over the phone for free. And usually we do that. We have that talk, and we keep track of those. I mean, we try to talk people into recovering their own deer. I mean, if I think it's a slam dunk recovery, I would love to go get it. But if I think it's just over the hill and that, hey, give it 6 hours or give it overnight and it's just going to be laying there, go look. If you don't see it, call me back. I'll come track it. I'm not in this just to take people's money. We try to educate hunters, but yeah. So we had this conversation with the folks in Pennsylvania, and with Darren Miner. He just commented, said, sounds familiar, because yeah. Ralph and I have a different mindset there. But we also don't charge for our tracking. Right.
What we've found over the years is some of these trackers that you think you're educating over the phone, and you're telling them what is really going on, they don't want to believe it. And right. Then they leave with a bad taste in their mouth for trackers, where if you have the ability and you can go out there and you can put forth some effort and educate them in the field, right, it goes a long ways.
Right.
And I get during the rut or the peak of tracking season that may not be a viable option.
Right.
But we've seen over the years a huge benefit to just going out there, giving them a little reassurance where they can see it with their own eyes, not just hear a voice over the phone that may be interpreted as being lazy and not wanting to be helpful.
Right, exactly. And we do take, I mean, we still get a lot of people that still insist we come out, especially early in the season. And if they're being insisting, you know, I'm going to go. I'm going to try to help them, try to educate them, and, you know, leave them with what tracking is. I mean, it's still, some people don't understand what these dogs can do. I mean, and I'm talking here in West Virginia, we are in a heavy dog culture. Lots of bear hunters, lots of coon hunters. And when they see one of our guys or one of our dogs that Chrissy and I have work, they stand there with their jaw open. They can't believe it because they, you know, the one I love hearing is anytime we track for a bear hunter, and he says, if my lead bear dog could do what I just saw your dogs do, I'd kill every bear on the mountain. So,
well, you know how that goes. I mean, they don't put in the same training that we do most of the time.
Right. Well,
most of the time, you know, I'm not saying all of them.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different wormhole there going into, you know, the hound dogs being diluted out in the area from breeding. So, but yeah, our dogs, you know, hunters love to see them work. And if I can get out there, we do. But I'm really conscious. We do this as a business. But all of my guys are blue collar workers. I've got coal miners. I've got loggers. I've got John Hockaday's a trained engineer. These are guys that work hard for their money. And the hunters are the same way in this state. And very seldom do we get somebody that, you know, I can just price a track to that they don't try to haggle me down, which is fine. I understand it. And I'm not saying we don't do tracks greatly reduced or for free a lot of times. If I know, I'm not going to leave a hunter hanging. If they're hurting and we know they're hurting, we're going to go do the track. And so, but I don't want to go out and do a lot of therapy tracks. That's what I call them for the hunter, to say, okay, your deer's going to show back up in another week or so on your trail cam.
Why do you not want to do that? I mean, isn't that promoting the tracking community, and isn't that showing that we're willing to help in educating the people and spreading the word?
It is. The reason is the amount of calls we get. It's just,
I honestly get 400 to 500 calls myself, one person a year. And I have given away tracks that were slam dunks to go on what I know is a clean miss, just to have that opportunity to educate that person and reach an area that maybe hasn't experienced a lot of trackers. So that's kind of my mindset on it. Yes, it's a peace of mind track, but at the same time, you just won this person over. They go tell 5 of their friends. Those 5 people go tell 5 of their friends, and they tell their friends. Now you just grew the whole community.
Right. And we've done that. I mean, we don't turn them all down. I'll tell you that. We just talk to them heavily and figure it out. And we give them the option. It's their option. I don't turn them down. I don't want you
John,
to
do you get all the calls?
I get all the calls, and I hand them out. I mean, if somebody, most of the time it comes in as a text because we're on a track. It comes in as a text. Somebody will say, for example, I'm in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. That's down in southern West Virginia. And instead of me calling that person, I'll just shoot that number down to my tracker in that area. Say, hey, Chad, here's one in your area. And he'll call and interview him and decide if that's a track he's going to take or not. Yeah. But all the calls come through us here at what we call headquarters. So.
Gotcha.
Do y'all have a certain amount of, are you looking for a certain amount of trackers, or you take on all the trackers that would like to be trackers under a Longspur?
We have
if you're qualified.
Yeah, we have taken just about everybody that's asked. There's been a couple I've turned down just because I know their background, where they come from, and I'm saying this kindly, like a background check. I'll check with DNR and they'll say, ooh. So, yeah.
All right. So Chris Ashley said, I can understand limiting the therapy tracks for sure. so you can dedicate the time towards recovering animals that can be recovered and aren't still fine or will live. And I do get that. And when I say that, I'm not leaving a hunter hanging.
Right.
Now, me personally, I may take those. I do take those types of tracks, and I'll hand off some other ones. I'm the type of person, I'll hand off what I feel is a slam dunk to take one that I feel is a challenge, just because that's what I like. I like the challenge. I pride myself in having good dogs. I mean, I get, I go through some dogs to make sure I have good dogs, go through a lot of training, but, I like the challenge, and I want to help develop these young trackers that are around me. And anyone here that knows me, like Mike Alguire, Mike will tell you I've given him plenty of slam dunk tracks while I'm out there chasing a back whack just to ease someone's mind.
Right.
So I'm not saying to leave people hanging, but I feel there's benefit to doing that, which we've already discussed that, but
Right.
So here is or I should say, here's a common thought process behind your business. I'm just going to put it up here so we can talk about it. Mike Alguire said, it sounds like a money-making scheme than it is to help hunters and others than wants to get into tracking, just so Longspur can comfortably afford to travel on what all the trackers are paying to be able to track. And I could be very wrong about this, but that's what it seems to me. And sounds like if it's not a quick dollar to be made, you refuse it. And that is what we hear a lot. And I know you said you've heard that a lot. So
I hear that a
give you
lot.
Opportunity to clear the air there.
I hear that a lot, and that's the one that gets me going, where I say, come spend a week with us. Just come spend a week with us and see what we do. Come here, hunt with us, stay with us. We are by no means well-to-do folks. We work hard for everything we get. It's not a money-making scheme. Most years are breaking even with our expenses. It allows us to do what we like to do, and that's it. We have made some improvements here, but it was from, our hard work from our training side. The tracking is almost like a relief to be able to go out and track compared to the other hard work that we put into this. I don't know, I don't know where that root is rooted. We help more hunters in the state of West Virginia. I don't know. That's one that just gets me. I say, come walk a mile in my shoes. And the guys that have done that, I've had Dave Foyer down here from Tri-State Deer Tracking up in PA. He was kind of skeptical. He comes down and turkey hunts every year. He knows we're just good people trying to make a living and doing what we love to do, and training dogs the best we can, tracking all the tracks we can. And
I can say firsthand. I mean, I don't charge, but I have done very well over the years. But it's, even when the years that I make a lot of money in tips, which most of the time I turn away or I give them to someone that's with me, you don't make money. I mean, when you start factoring in your mileage, your wear and tear on your vehicle, your vet bills, your dog food, I get it. I put a lot of money out as well.
Yeah, we're supporting.
I said my wife might be listening. Be quiet.
We support our family on this. It's not on the backs of our trackers. Our trackers pay that $25 fee in, and we promote them. I don't see any other groups out there, and there's other groups, a few other groups out there that do this. I don't see any other groups that promote their lower level trackers that are writing stories about them that say, hey, call up a tracker, just made tracker, and say, hey, I've been at, me, Shon Butler, has been called to do a podcast. Why don't you jump on and do this one? That's what we do. We're promoting our trackers. It's not just, hey, Shon. We try to promote everybody, and we work hard at it. I've never had anybody really leave complaining about that other than one person, and he just didn't like our business model. And that, hey, whatever, that's fine. All the rest of our guys, which are 56 of us in 10 states right now, are pretty happy with it.
Gotcha. So I think your camera froze on you. So, I do get it. And I can say this, I've spent a lot of time over the years promoting our Florida Blood Trailing Network and Georgia Blood Trailing Network. I've been to the expos. I've traveled. I travel a lot with American Blood Trackers. It's expensive.
Right.
Expos really. When you start going to expos, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that Harrisburg event is probably what, $4,000 or $5,000 when you're all said and done.
It's yeah, it's right in there. By the time you get your booth and help with everything, it's a good $5,000 just to put a presence in the area and educate hunters about tracking in that area. Yeah.
Wait a minute, it's not all free.
I wish it was.
People don't believe it. I've done them with other businesses, and man, it is expensive.
It is expensive, and so
before you ever walk into the building, it's expensive.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. I know.
With all their insurance, with all everything, it's just unbelievable.
And see, that's another part of our liability insurance. We have to carry those at those shows. We have to put them on as insured, and that costs us more money. It's crazy, but to get out there and get in front of the hunters, because the hunters is what makes your business go. You got to have them. I don't care if you're a free tracker or one. I know of guys out there that are charging $500 and more. You got to have hunters though to do it. So that's we took this commitment on to doing outdoor expos all over our region, and we're starting to expand out in the country and do them. And we have a good time doing it. And that's one thing I like to say. Our Longspur guys and gals are like a family. I mean, and we're committed to what we do.
I've said it to you. I've said at the Pennsylvania event, whenever it got brought up about charging, Darren Miner will tell you, our country is founded on free enterprise. I mean, you can do what you want, and I'm not knocking anyone for that. If someone wants to have a business, be an entrepreneur, so what? A customer has the decision right to be your customer or not. So I'm not against it. It's just I take it a different approach. But and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just
right. And I think through some of our phone calls, there are guys in West Virginia that do track for free. As long as they're doing it and following the law, hey, more power to them. And I have handed tracks off to those guys before when we are at our busiest. And I'm not talking just the shoulder shots, but I know are pretty good tracks. I handed one off to a gentleman that was really big. He was down in southern West Virginia. He has since moved, but I had a young man call me, and we had 5 tracks lined up over the next 14, 15 hours. And I had a young man call me and say he had shot a 180-inch buck in our bow hunting only counties. And he knew he killed it. He described the shot. It was a dead deer. I didn't have anybody to take it. And I gave it to a guy that did free tracking. And he went and found a deer, did an awesome job. And the boy was happy. And, there's nothing wrong with it. To each their own. We do it as a business. That's how I feed my family. And as you know, I'm very passionate about it. And but we just watch it real close in West Virginia. But as long as people are doing it above board and following the law, I don't have no problem with it.
Yeah, and we had this discussion because a mutual tracker that we know had started a voluntary network in West Virginia, and at first the thought was you were upset about it because you didn't want it to hurt your business, and so I picked up the phone and we had a conference call. at the request of this individual, just to have someone to help kind of mediate, because there was some concern. Right. Anyways, long story short, really all that you said is, hey, I'll get behind it. I'll help you. I'll support you. I see the need for it. You know, there may be some people out there that just can't afford it, and, you know, we'll get them some help. And you said, hey, this is a good resource for my apprentices to get some tracks and to help the hunting community. And, you know, I do want to put that out there and commend you for that, because, you know, it showed that you weren't just upset thinking that someone was going to hurt your business.
No, it goes to all, as we were talking about, all the hoops that we have to jump through to follow the law. As long as it's not promoting somebody to break the law and skirt that I'm fine with it. And you know, we talked about that, and as long as you know, if those people want to track for free, if they're that's great. If they want to accept tips, as long as they're on an outfitters list, they can do that. And we're here to promote it. We want it to grow. And like you said, it might be able to get us some help in West Virginia for some legislation things we're wanting to shoot for. And we're behind it. We're happy to be behind it.
Yeah, and I got to say, you know, Shon and John Hockaday's on here. Both of you guys will tell you that, you know, I've spent probably 4 hours on the phone last week with conference calls with you guys and some other trackers, trying to help rebuild some relationships in West Virginia, you know. And it's I don't track in West Virginia. It some would say, what do I care? Well, I care because I have a passion for the tracking community. Ralph has a passion for the tracking community. You know, we're going back. We spent a lot of money going to Pennsylvania. We're going back, and, you know, some people are saying, oh, well, you're charging $75 for this event. Well, yeah, we're traveling 16 and a half hours. We're getting a hotel room. We're providing food. We're providing drinks. How far do you think? And we're paying for the venue. How far do you think $75 a head goes?
And I take care of most of the money, and it don't go far.
Right.
No.
So,
but
you know,
we don't even ask. If 5 people signed up, we'd go.
Tom Hill's on here.
And that's the other thing. There's no guarantee.
Right. Tom will tell you that I went, myself and my business partner John Vaughn and my family went to Mississippi to administer 5 tests. Mm-hmm. Okay. It cost me, I think when I sat down and figured it up, I had spent $1,800. I didn't make any money. You know, and Ralph will tell you, now when I got there, 5 tests turned into 8 or 9, I can't remember, something like that. And what did when I came back, I gave Ralph every dime back to the association. I didn't ask for anything, you know, and I spent $1,800 of my own money. But the way I look at it is I got to take my family on a vacation. I got to help grow the tracking community. You know, we were able to work and teach and train new trackers, or even some of the more veteran trackers. I believe Tom will tell you he's been tracking for a while. I'm sure he learned something while we were there. You know, and so it's so for everyone to think that there's a lot of money to be made in tracking, there's not. I mean, even I was talking to someone today about my training. You know, when you break down training at my cost, it's about $50 to $55 a day.
Right.
You know, roughly. Sometimes less, depending on, because I don't do a time-based training. I do a results-based training.
Right.
So when you break it down, it may be $40 a day. I mean, most people pay $40 a day just to have their dog boarded and walked a couple of times and fed. You know, we're going out there every day. We're laying a quarter, a half mile trail every day or more, you know, letting it lay. You know, this morning we were out working dogs. This evening, John and my son, they're out there working dogs now. They're going to be laying lines to run in the morning. You know, when you start thinking about how much work it is and you think, okay, I'm paying $50 a day to have my dog trained. we're not doing it for the money. I mean,
Right.
don't get me wrong. We are making money if you take in enough dogs. But when you look at the workload, you have to love what you do to do it for. It's no different with tracking.
Yeah, exactly. We have not.
And you haven't even talked about the $500 drones.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's making me lose my hair, because that's that's a new venture for us, and we're going to put a drone and a dog out there. I'm not saying in the field at the same time, so people don't take me wrong. I know that's illegal in some states, but we are going to put a drone, and a dog will be available on anytime we have a drone in the field. I mean, and we're not just doing drone only. So that's going to be up to the hunter what they want to see done first. If they want it tracked or they want it looked for with the drone, and then the other second option will step in if the first option doesn't work. So
what are the rules in West Virginia?
At West Virginia, we cannot use a drone. So we will be flying in Ohio and Kentucky mainly, possibly Western Maryland. So those are our legal states. Pennsylvania is a state we cover, but they're illegal up there also. So drones are a no-go in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And the law is very, very strict in West Virginia on drones. I mean, there's not much wiggle room on it. So.
Well, we have a few questions to get caught up on. You know, we knew this was going to be this way because there's a lot of stuff. So so Cody says, how many companies do you know sell a service to the community and gives their employee 90% of the commission from the sale? How does this seem like a money scheme? You know, and
that's a good point.
I think you presented it well. I mean, you know, even I told you this. I admitted on the phone that I had the same thoughts, you know, because you just didn't put it out there, you know. And I'm not saying you had to, but it leaves room for people to assume things. Right.
Well, and I want to just, you know, touch on that. These guys are given, like Cody just said, you know, 10% maybe at the most. They're getting more than what we really touched on, because as Longspur's grown, as we have reached so many people in the United States, I mean, we've had some large companies approach us and say, can you push our products through your social media? Can you push them through your YouTube? Could you push them on your web app? So we have made partnerships with Garmin. And in return for that, Garmin gives our trackers a healthy discount that nobody, from what I understand, in the United States gets, especially on the tracking dog side. So, and we have several companies that do that. They give our trackers that are in our system these large discounts. And I'm talking when
it's hard to get a good discount from Garmin. I do get a good discount.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not something they give to just anyone.
No, it is not. You have to prove yourself with Garmin. There's no BS in your way into their system. And the great thing is we have a great relationship to them. They have actually been giving us Alpha 300 and TT25 combos to give away at outdoor expos for free. I mean, we have people throw their name in a hat and give one away. And Garmin has been such a big help to our organization, but we have several companies that do that with us. So there is a great benefit to being a Longspur tracker. It's the education, you know, a structured system going from apprentice and working your way up, trying to be a master tracker. And it's also the company relations we have and promoting these people to be trackers in their area. So,
yeah. So Mike Alguire again, he's full of questions tonight, and we appreciate those questions, Mike. All right, he says, a legit question. After y'all's hunter interviews, you think with shot angle and deer reaction, there's no way that the deer is hit. Do y'all take them what I call peace of mind tracks for the hunter? And the reason I ask, because I know myself, Kenny, Ralph, and others actually recover some of the deer that we all thought there's no way the deer is hit. So I was just curious if something y'all do a lot of. And I think we've touched on that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do. I mean, I've had.
Well, let me give you a scenario. Okay.
Sure.
I got a call last year, and the hunter tells me that his girlfriend shot a deer. It immediately hit the ground, kicked around, laid there for a couple of minutes, and crawled off with dragging its back legs. Would you take the call?
No, I mean, that sounds like a backwhack to me. I would explain it to him, but I would take it. I've taken a lot of those. And educational purposes, yes, let's go out and teach and do that.
Yeah. So I got that deer 150 yards away, dead on.
So there you go. And it happens. It's happened. We found deer I didn't think there's no way we'd find, and we've not found deer that I thought would be laying, not too far away, that have showed back up on camera. So
yeah. And this guy, they didn't even go look, because I tracked for him before. He's like, look, I know it's a long shot. He's actually a game warden. He said, I know it's a long shot, but if you'll come out here, just ease her mind. And it was literally 150 yards away.
That's awesome. But yeah, I'll take a back whack on before I will those high shoulders with 3 inches penetration, though, because you just never know. You never know on
right.
those. Yeah.
So Joe Tenney had a question. Any advice for others trying to change legislation in their home state? I'd love to see Ohio go tracker dispatch and the off-lead option. So, Joe, if you will get with Ralph and I, we will help you with that. We do have a team that will assist you with that, and we've been talking with Shon, because Shon is wanting some of this legislation, and honestly, Shon, we've seen it come up in comments here. Some people think that you had a part in the outfitter license to tailor the tracking in West Virginia for your business.
No,
but I can tell you firsthand that's not the case, because you've reached out to us and you said, hey, we want this stuff changed, but I'm kind of in a position now. We have someone in charge that I'm not seeing an eye to eye with, and we could use some help. You did come to us and say that.
Yeah, I mean, relationships change in state government. I mean, I made a good friend in our former DNR director, Steve McDaniels. He helped me get tracking legalized in his state. If it wasn't for his guidance, I don't know that we would have got it done. And I can tell you, and he would tell you, the day that it passed third reading and they added that outfitter section in there, I called him and gave him I lit him up, and he said, listen, just calm down, because I just told you I was laid off. I didn't know where I could come up with $3,000 or $4,000 to pay for an outfitting license. I was on the verge of tears. I was like, all we wanted to do was track and try to make some money. And he said, listen, calm down. I know you don't want it this way, but think about it. Go home, think about it. Call me back tomorrow. And then I tried to, do that. I talked to a couple other trackers that were at the time talking about getting into tracking in West Virginia. And they said, with that outfitting license requirement, I'm out. I'm not doing it. And so I called, Steve McDaniels back the next day. And I said, I don't know. And he said, did you talk to anybody else? I said, yeah, I talked to 2 or 3 other guys. And they said they're not going to get a license. They're tired of the bull crap of the state government being involved, and they're not doing it. And it's expensive. And he said, have you ever taken a risk in your life and made an investment that you think you're over your head in? And I said, yes, sir, I have. And I've won some and I've lost some. He said, make the investment, get your outfitting license. I was still mad. At that time, I couldn't see it. I don't know why, but I listened to him and I got him. And like I said, for the first 2 years, Chrissy and I were the only licensed outfitters in the state of West Virginia for tracking. And I began to understand what he was saying. He could see it before I could. you know, take advantage of the law as it's written. Not that I wrote it. I know I didn't have anything to do with that outfitter section. I hated it. I thought it was dumb. I thought third-party testing was the way to control who was running tracks in the state of West Virginia, who could show their competency, not an outfitting license.
So let me ask you this. If there was some testing options out there, what is the reason you created a test? And I already know the answer, but this is something that other people have asked.
Okay, great question. First of all, I had tried to get the other testing organization to come to West Virginia. Some of the first contacts I made, I was told by their director of testing, no way. The infrastructure isn't here to do it. Nobody's going to drive down just to give one test to you. And nobody can come down and give tests to 10 or 15 trackers. We actually had 30 guys lining up saying, hey, we'll take the other organization's test if we could get a judge here. It didn't happen. We drug on for 2 years and didn't get any headway. At the same time, we caught a lot of flack from the other organization for our style of tracking, our style of training, our business model. A lot of untruths were going on out there. And it turned, caused some hard feelings. I'm going to tell you that. It caused some real hard feelings. As I said, I'm raising a little 9-year-old girl here. This is our livelihood. And we had people coming to our tracking training page from that organization just ripping us down. And we just persevered through it. But I welcome them to come here. I will never travel to go take their test, ever. I was invited to go to Missouri and take it. I'm not doing that. They are more than welcome to come to West Virginia. I'm not saying to our property or our area, but come to West Virginia. I'll take the test anytime, but I'm not traveling to do it. Too many hard feelings. I don't hate them. I'm a member of their organization.
That was going to be the next question that came in. Someone sent me a message and said, why does Shon hate the UBT?
Yeah, no, I don't have any hate for him. I've talked with Yoletta. I've read John's books. Don't have any hate for the UBT. I have a severe dislike, and I'm open and honest about this, for about 6 of their members that they wouldn't rein in, that really tried to destroy our business. And, I'm highly disappointed in that. And you gained a lot of respect from me this week, but from willing you and Ralph to get on conference call and just talk things over. That's what men do, or adults, I should say. We're in a world full of adults. That's what adults do. Just talk it over. We don't have to agree. I don't agree with everything Kenny Mullins does, and he doesn't agree with everything I do, but we can better tracking together. I mean,
right.
That's an easy thing to do. Just come to understand each other.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. Like I said, we spent a lot of money. I going to Pennsylvania and Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, going to Iowa, going back to Pennsylvania. So we know going back to Pennsylvania, we are not going to, we're going to lose money. It's coming out of my personal pocket, Ralph's personal pocket. We're not doing it for any other reason than we saw a need in that area. A very big need. And, so we're doing it for the betterment of the tracking community. And I'm just going to put this out there. I'm going to admit it. I'm a little butthurt over some comments that were made that we weren't for the betterment of tracking. Well, that's bullcrap. We're putting forth a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of time. I mean, I spent 5 hours today putting together PowerPoint presentations for that event.
Right.
I'm not asking for anything in return. Do we have a fee? Yes, but what's that fee going to cover? Pretty much it's going to cover the venue.
Right.
You know, and like you said, you know, Ralph and I, we spend hours every day working on this stuff and asking for nothing. You know, we just love tracking, and, you know,
Right.
It's changed my life. You know, I'll just put this out there. I used to battle with some depression, you know, and, you know, tracking was kind of at a point in my life, at a low point in my life, tracking brought me out of that. And it's the way that I can give back for what has helped me, you know, and, I think there's a lot of people out there. I mean, it's saved kids. We got a lot of kids getting into tracking, and, you know, a personal friend of mine, he was going through some stuff, and you know, he got into tracking. Well, it turned his life around, just because he found a new passion.
Right.
You know, so those are my motivating drivers. You know, I can tell you, there ain't many people out there that loves it more than I do, more than Ralph does. You know, probably more than you do. People can think it's driven by money. You know, I had a guy tell me that I'm doing it because I have a dog training business. I barely advertise. I mean, I'll put a few videos out here and there, and it's not even really for the advertisement, because I'm booked up the rest of the year anyways. You know, it's just putting some content out there because the people like to see their dogs on YouTube, you know.
Right.
If I was worried about it, I'd be putting out ads and trying to get 20, 30, 40,000 followers. It's not about that.
Right.
You know, it's I want to grow the tracking community, and, you know, just like our testing platform, you know, that I've seen some bad experiences on testing sides of things, some inconsistencies, some unfair practices, whether it was intentional or not. But the biggest reason why we created a testing platform is we didn't have that support, you know, like you were talking about. You know, when I have to drive 10 and a half, 11 hours to get a test administered, that hurts.
Yeah.
You know, the closest judge is 6 hours from me, and, you know, that's when that person's available. Then the next closest is 7.5 hours, then 10.5 hours. So, you know, there was a need, and Ralph and I both tried to fill that gap in other ways, but, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And it sounds like that's the point you were at.
Right. Yes, it was. And you know, it was a disappointment to see others, what is supposed to be sportsmen, because we're all sportsmen, whether we're hunters or trackers, just attacking each other. And at first, because you know, you were talking about depression. Heck, I just got laid off. I was feeling it too, and the pressure to come through for the family, and to hear these other people that I didn't even know, that didn't know me, tearing me down publicly, even as far as making fun of the fact that I'm from West Virginia, which is not something you do to West Virginians, because they really take that personal, and then they usually show you up. But it was pretty hurtful. So it just is what it is. I mean, we're happy where we're at. We've grown past that. I don't go getting the back and forth anymore. I just
it's not
do what
worth
we're
it.
doing and go on. And
so we had another question come in from Gene Ferris,
Sure.
and I think this is a good one we need to touch on. Let's say you use a drone, but you don't find the deer and don't recover it, then call a dog and he does recover it. Does the hunter pay for both services?
Okay, good question. Yes, but we're going to price point, and it's not going to be the dog and the drone coming separate. Drone's going to be there with the dog. I mean, we're there. So it's not like two different people are coming, unless one of our trackers needs backup with a drone or something. But we're going to try to keep it price point. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. You know, I don't hide anything. It's on our Facebook page when our price lists come out. If I have to drive 3-4 hours to Kentucky, I charge $350. If we add the drone in, it's probably going to be a $400 flat fee. That's cheaper than any other drone company out there that's in that area that's well known on YouTube. Let's just leave it that way. That's their
and you're providing a dog and a drone at that point, right?
Yep, I'm providing the dog and a drone. If they want a tip because we've done a good job and found their deer, that's up to them. But I mean, I've got all day traveling to get there to those areas. We try to do 2 or 3 tracks in an area or 2 or 3 recoveries. Well, I guess we'll have to be calling them with these drones in an area once we go there, just to help pay for the day. Like I said, West Virginia is not legal. And another thing I point out to people, West Virginia is not an easy state to travel through to get to places. So if somebody needs me in Ohio, it takes me a couple hours just to get to the border. And then from there, I might be another hour over into where I'm tracking. So, yeah.
Yeah. What's that, Ralph?
I'm sorry. I was going to say, me and Kenny both somebody needs us, or especially if we know someone, we'll do a lot of traveling. Well, in the height of the rut, you're also losing, I'll do in between 5 and 10 tracks on a Saturday during the height of the season.
Exactly.
So you go to traveling, you can only, like you're saying, a 3-hour trip, say down here is about as far as I've gone. You're going to miss 4 or 5 tracks.
Exactly.
Like you said, that's an all day affair. That's not, it's 3 hours one way. You got to do the track, 3 hours back. That's a whole day.
Yeah.
And you lose a lot of time, or a lot of other people that want you to come because they've used you before. So it's tough.
Yes, it is. And I mean, we're growing our system. So like Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky has been very devoid of trackers. There's not very many. And in fact, most of us West Virginia boys track Eastern Kentucky because they're just not. I have one of our master trackers, Paul Parise, lives in Louisa, Kentucky. I always say that wrong. Louisa, Kentucky. And he still takes some tracks, but he's retirement age, and he has us younger guys down there tracking. And we just added a tracker over in Lexington. His name's Cody Varney. He's a elk guide in Kentucky. So he helps us out. We do a lot of elk tracking in that area. He's going to help us out big time through there. But as far as, local trackers, there's just not a lot in Kentucky. But we're going to build that. We're going to get some people educated there. And hopefully working with the ABTA, we can get you some guys in there. So.
Yeah. And, I'm not anti-drone. There's a lot of dog guys out there that are, like Randy Vick said, he's found deer behind drones, and drones have found deer behind him. It's just the way happens. It is,
Right.
And I've shared this numerous times. Last year, we recovered a deer that went 180 yards. It took us 3 hours to find a deer that was 180 yards away. Well, it was the result of flash flooding. When they shot the deer, that slough had less than ankle deep water in it. By the time I got there, it was chest deep.
Oh, geez.
And the dogs weren't quitting. So I knew the deer was mortally wounded.
Right.
So I wasn't giving up till the dogs gave up. That's just how I am. And I was out there 3 hours. And finally, of all dogs, a 5-month-old puppy worked it out. Just happened to get in the right area and caught wind of it. It's so there's a place for drones. I called a drone guy out, which is a game warden, to help find one of my dogs that was missing for 2 days. And he does, at the time he didn't think he found the dog, but I don't find it a coincidence that he sent me to an area. I walked in there. It was raining, so of course the dog is bedded up. I don't find it to be a coincidence that as soon as he left, the rain quit, the dog shows up back home.
Right.
I know without a doubt he sent me to where that dog was. She didn't want to come out. And when the rain stopped, she trailed me back home. There's no doubt in my mind. And I called him and I thanked him. And, he still didn't want to accept that he had anything to do with it, but there's not a doubt in my mind.
Right.
See. So,
as far as
Leland
drones.
Shelton said, I missed the first part of this, but are Kenny and Ralph asking for tracking legislation in Florida? Randy Vick commented earlier, and I didn't get a chance to put it up there. We need to look at Shon's situation in West Virginia, or everyone's situation in West Virginia. I'm saying Shon because you're on here.
Right.
We could have it a whole lot worse.
Yes.
And here's the thing with legislation. Eventually, things are going to come down the line. It's just a matter of time. Ralph will tell you we're not out there looking to change or to put laws in place or change things, but we're going to be prepared for when that time comes, because like Ralph always says, it's easier to pass good legislation than to change bad legislation.
Exactly.
And have no doubt, while we're not doing anything, somebody's trying to stop it or put a lot of regulation on us without us knowing it.
Right.
It's just
exactly.
Michael Bragg just commented, and he knows firsthand. He's dealt with it, been dealing with it in Alabama. I mean, and the bad thing about Alabama is it's another hunting group, another group of houndsmen that is attacking trackers there. So yeah, you got to be prepared, but I like what Michael Bragg says here. Drones are not the problem, just like tracking dogs. It's the people using both and not knowing what they're doing with either.
Right. Right.
Especially with putting certain things on social media.
Right. After running both, and the drones have their places. In West Virginia, they are not going to be effective until our leaf cover's off. I mean, they just aren't with the topography we have. I myself would push for even having if we can ever get them legalized in the law, that you cannot start doing deer recovery or wounded game recovery until November 1st. Make sure the leaves are on the ground. I mean, then it can be used for the rut and the late season, but they are very ineffective. I mean, just from my practice here and what I'm seeing with this leaf cover and topography. And you got to be willing to admit that, even though you maybe have made a $10,000 to $20,000 investment. You got to be willing to say this is limited. But you can also say, at times you got to be willing to say that with the dog too. My dog may not be effective right here at this juncture. I've tracked in Ohio in some reclaimed strip mines that had 8-foot tall grass that my Yawg Terrier is not effective in, just for trying to get through. Wasn't great for a drone though.
Well, if you had the right breed.
Yeah.
No, but there is a place for both, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I would choose a dog first every time. I think there's more times in our area, and John Davis asked where Ralph and I are. We're in North Florida. We track in North Florida and South Georgia. Ralph's about 2 hours east of me. But I will say there's a place for both. But in our area especially, I think the dog has the advantage probably 85% of the time.
As a biologist, wildlife biologist, I prefer my dog. And as a woodsman, I prefer my dog. And I tell people, there's only two things I can tell you with that drone. I see your deer. I don't see your deer. Okay. with the dog, I can tell you the story. I can say that the deer went this way. I believe it's hit this manner. I believe you'll see it, or I believe we're going to find it. I can give a whole story, and I think it leaves a better taste in a hunter's mouth to have that story and have that hope to hold on to, especially if you're leaving them and saying, I think this deer's on its feet. So, and that dog will tell you that. Yeah. So you have that whole story to tell rather than, oh, there's your deer. No, I didn't see your deer, and going on to the next one.
Yeah. And on the other side, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other side of that is a lot of these drone operators, and especially a certain drone company out there, has been bashing dogs and giving misinformation out there. And that's where a lot of this hatred from the dog community has stemmed from with drones. But here's my issue with drone, I'm going to say technicians, because that's all they are. They operate a drone. They're a machine operator. They don't have the training. A lot of them don't have the training that we do. They don't know how to read the signs. They don't practice proper wait times. They don't even know what a proper wait time is. So now you get a drone that comes out there 2 hours after a shot on a gut shot, and they see a live deer, and they say, oh, there's your deer. It's alive. Well, especially in certain states, now you're no longer allowed to pursue that deer.
Right.
You know, where you call a tracker with a dog, they're going to say, oh, that's gut shot. You know, we'll see you in 10, 12 hours or more, 24 hours, whatever, depending on the ambient temperature. So that's something I just wanted to touch on. But Ralph, a question came in for you, and I don't know if you can see it there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be politically correct on here. So, I'm going to tell you in a way that I don't know their reasons for allowing anything. The reason we started is I've been in business since I was 21. And, you know, a lot of people can say whatever they want. If you don't like the way I'm doing it, go start your own company. Well, by God, that's what we did.
Right.
We didn't like what was going on, didn't like how things were being handled. We chose to start our own so that we could solve the problems we were personally having and want to make sure nobody else has those problems. And we go through a lot of heartache to try and make sure that nobody experiences what we went through. And we've made our rules and our regulations within the company for the testing for those reasons. And we have committees, not individuals, making decisions. And that keeps us out of that situation. How other people talk about it, I'm a big boy. I don't really care. I just keep motoring on. That's all I know to do. I don't get in the back and forth crap. You never see me on there doing that. I'm not going to get into it. But have no doubt, it's a driving force that makes us do what we do and keeps that engine running hard to make sure we stay ahead of that type stuff. Because me and Kenny, we talk every day, and the passion hasn't left. It's not going to leave. We enjoy this, and we enjoy we've never really got into testing till a few years ago, and ran into the problems, but now we enjoy the off season about as much as we enjoy the in season with all this, and we just keep it real and hoping that we can save some heartache from some of the other people, and we have made mistakes.
We have made mistakes. We're going to make more mistakes. People's going to be upset with us. There's a lot of great people in the other organization. I'm not going to say there's not. There's a lot. There are good judges over there that do the right things, you know. But we saw, like you said, we saw a need. And if you look, we are strategically especially this year, we're strategically going into places trying to help rebuild some communities and get some education out there. I think the folks in Pennsylvania will tell you we've spent a lot of time in the last month with them. And Shon, I know you'll tell everyone we spent a lot of time with you, John, Brandon.
Yep.
I'm just going to put it out there, and I don't think anyone will mind. Some of those conversations got very heated.
Yeah.
Very heated.
Yeah.
And it couple hours later, everyone's friendly.
Well, let me tell you, that's the way it should be. I mean, if you get it out in the front, I mean, talk about it like adults, like I was saying earlier. I don't have to agree with you, and you can tell me what you're thinking, and you don't have to agree with me. But if it's all going towards the same end goal, there's nothing wrong with it. And the minute people start talking behind each other is when your organization will fall apart. And sometimes I think, I know Dave asked that question, but I think sometimes at the upper echelon of the other organization doesn't know what some of the people in the field are doing out there. And yeah, you can't control all your members, but I would expect somebody's out there representing you and saying they run a state organization for the other group, that they'd have a little control over them. But
yeah,
I do.
The upper echelon is the problem.
Yeah. So, but I really do appreciate the way, hey, just jump on a conference call, hash it out, and go on. That's, there's not enough of that nowadays. I mean, even look inside.
And you know what? What happened on those calls? Like I said, some of it got very, very heated, and it stayed there.
That's right.
We did not hang up the phone on one another and create any issues. We hashed it out right then and there, and everyone worked it out, and we settled things, and we've built new friendships. Now I do want to touch on a subject that is a hot topic right now.
Okay.
And that is tracker ID.
Right.
So
a little bottle right there.
Yes. So I will be the first to say that I am very anti anything synthetic when it comes to training.
Okay.
With some other products that are out there, like tanned hides, I don't see a deer walking around with a tanned hide.
Right.
Some scents that are out there that don't even know what it is. It's just they claim it's everything on a wounded deer trail in a bottle. Well, I don't know how you get everything on a wounded deer trail in a bottle. I mean, it's not even realistic. And I'm not saying yours, but there's other products out there.
Right.
And one thing that I've studied a lot is the interdigital and how the dog interprets it. And, the big factor with the interdigital gland is the chemical pheromone.
Right.
And even scientists have not broken down the exact makeup of the declining health pheromone.
Right.
So for a company to state that they have a synthetic product, again, I'm not saying yours.
Right.
The company to state that they have a synthetic product that is a wounded deer scent. I find it hard to believe when the scientists don't even have the exact compound, because the interdigital gland is comprised of 46 volatile compounds.
Right.
How many combinations of pheromones can that deer make with 46 compounds?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. And that's a good question. So there probably isn't any synthetic out there. I'm sorry. Any synthetic out there that can mimic interdigital set. And we've tried things over the years playing with them. Even back in my bird dog training days, you can buy a bottle of bird scent, but how do I know what's in there? There was never an ingredients list. So as we got into this, we started playing with this. John Hockaday had a big hand in this in tracker ID. I will say right here's what's in tracker's ID. If you all could see that out there, that's the interdigital wax pulled from 4 hooves off one deer, right there. So we take one hoof worth of that, and by a patented process, seal that wax that's in that one hoof into a liquid wax that makes it a liquid. And if when you get our bottles of ID, if you look in them, you will see hair, you will see specks of blood. But the main thing is that wax is in there. There's no synthetic. That's a wax to a wax seal. Scent-free wax. It's a liquid wax. I can't talk much about it. I will tell you we're in a partnership with Smokey's Deer Lures out of northern West Virginia. He's been in this business for 40 years. He also
Is that who holds the patent?
That's who holds the patent.
Okay, because that's been a big question.
He holds the patent, and he's also sworn to secrecy on this with us also, and we're the only company he's working with on making this. But he has an interdigital product himself. This is different from it, but the sealing it to the wax is the same process.
Okay, so do you feel that this replaces the use of hooves?
I do not feel that it replaces the use of hooves, and I still use them here in training. I feel like it's another tool in your tool bag. In fact, I just had a tracker. Well, I'll throw it out there. Dave Foyer up at Tri-State Tracking in Northern PA called me there a few weeks ago. He said, my freezer just went out. I lost all of my hooves. Can you send me a bottle of Tracker's ID and can I use it to train my dogs? And I said, Dave, that's why we got it out there. It's for training your dogs. It's a tool. It's a tool in my tool bag. You'll see me have my you'll see me have my hoof stick out there, or I'll have my sponge stick that I use ID with. It's a tool. It will not replace hooves, but I will tell you we are running some tests with some young dogs, and that's all we're training them on is blood and Tracker's ID. They'll go into this fall. I'm hoping actually to get Joe Tenney or Brandon C down here to test again later in the summer, and I'm hoping to run them through one of your all's tests, just to see how they relate to that before we start into the hunting season.
So a lot of questions coming in asking if it's from wounded
Sure.
deer. He did say it's from wounded deer.
Yes, it is from deer that left a track, archery shot deer. We can guarantee that. And we do not make it large batch. You're never going to see us in Cabela's I should never say never. It would take a miracle because this is one hoof and one bottle. We do not want to water it down in any way, and we are not in a position to make 100,000 bottles a year. We're going to be lucky to turn out 200 to 300 a year.
So Michael Bragg's asking, how many hooves does it take to make one bottle?
One hoof, one bottle.
Okay. Now, I do want to share an experience with this. I do know someone who has gotten it, and I have experienced this firsthand. And I'm going to give my honest feedback on this. It is a very overpowering scent. So this is just based on what I've experienced. I think you need to extend your wait times further than you would with just using just hooves. And it's just by the nature of it, because when a deer naturally excretes the interdigital pheromone through the hair follicles, it's not all of that scent. It's not
right there.
Not as pungent.
Right.
So I did witness a dog track it, and it tracked it very easily. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you it was overpowering. And it may have been how it was applied. But just like liver, liver's a lot of scent. And if that's all you have to train with, you better really increase your wait times. And that's what my experience has been with Tracker ID, which is very limited.
Right. And as we grow in this, and we're going to put that information out there, if I'm seeing it, I'm going to be honest about it. And I'm going to say, hey, But my biggest thing is, and some of the feedback I'm getting out there, I believe people are using too much of it at a time. When we ship this out, it comes with a glass dropper that goes in there. This is a 1/2 ounce bottle. From what I have tested here, a 1/2 ounce should get you 40 tracks. And I already have people reordering after 15 or 20 tracks. So they're making it too hot. We also use it on a sponge stick, and that sponge stick makes the track hot at the beginning, but it runs it out. It almost mimics like you're on a shoulder shot deer rather than a deer that's gut shot. But I mean, I'm glad you asked about it, because that's one of the things we really wanted to talk about was Tracker's ID. We hear, oh, it's snake oil. No. And there's no synthetic in it. It's a natural wax sealed to a natural wax, made into a liquid. It has, I mean, like I said, when you hold that up to the light, you'll see deer hair, little specks of blood and stuff in it. It is shelf stable. Keeping it in the refrigerator does not hurt it. But the biggest thing is not to put it in direct sunlight, like on the dash of your truck. You'll cook the scent right out of it. The other thing we found is it cannot be stored in plastic. So we use glass bottles and glass droppers. If it stores in plastic, it kills the natural scent. So because there's no stable chemicals put in there to stabilize it, make it get along with the plastic, or make it last longer.
How long would one bottle last? That's not from usage, but just say if it's stored, how
Shelf
long would
life.
that last?
Shelf life. Okay, if you kept it out of the sunlight, like in the top of a closet or something, or just up there, I would say a good 18 to 24 months is what we found. But if you put it in direct sunlight, it can ruin that bottle overnight. We've actually, some of the ones we've left out in the sunlight, dogs wouldn't even track it the next day. So,
are the ingredients, the added ingredients, the liquid wax or whatever, is it safe for dogs?
Yes, it is safe for dogs. I've told people on at expos and on videos, you could take this and drink it. It's all natural. It's safe for dogs. Nothing in harmful.
We need a demonstration.
There you go. I said, if I really was a con artist, I would have had one with Mountain Dew in it and just done it for you. Right? But no, I tell people that. I say I don't recommend it, but no, it's not going to hurt dogs. I've not had one fall over dead yet. So there is nothing in there that'll hurt a dog. It's all natural.
So you're, if you had a choice between training a dog with natural hooves or that, what would be your first choice?
That's a good question.
Outside of being a salesman that's selling this, what would your first choice be?
I always like the real thing. I mean, because I know I'm putting down what that dog's going to be smelling. I'd like to use a hoof, but I'm really picky about my hooves. I think it takes just a little. I don't want hooves off a deer that hasn't gone at least 100 yards. I want it that, but I also want that tool available to me. This is one of those years where I didn't get a lot of hoof collection. Plus, this is product coming out, so I run a little low. And I do ask people at my school, do you want them trained on hooves or can I use Tracker ID? So.
I just wanted that out there because, you and I had the conversation. You said, hey, I'm going to promote the real thing first. And this is another tool in the box. If you lose, freezer goes out or you can't get hooves. Because I'm a trainer too. So I get calls all the time. Hey, I'm wanting to get into tracking. I don't have supplies. What do I do? So, we do have some questions coming in. Randy Vick says, won't a brown bottle help the sunlight problem?
It could help the sunlight problem. We're thinking it's the high heat in the sun, getting up to that 120 to 150 degrees on a dashboard that maybe kills it more than the direct sun. The other problem that we're finding, because we're doing this in small batch, is availability of glass bottles. something that isn't made in the United States anymore. Something, glass bottles used to be made by the millions right here within 10 miles of my house. West Virginia was a big glass company. You got to order these things from China, and I'm not a fan of it. So we have to get what we get. The brown glass probably work better, but.
Okay, we had another question from Courtney DeMello. Is there an issue with always using the same deer for training purposes? I don't feel there is an issue there.
No. If we say blood, if we can sit here and say all blood is blood, we can use beef blood, we can use deer blood, we can use hog blood, then I don't see a problem using the same interdigital scent over and over and over. Of course, when you're out of that bottle and you order another one, you're getting a different deer. So you could order 2 bottles and switch up if that really is in your mind and bothers you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're teaching these dogs to follow a trail.
Connect the dots. I mean, we could sit here all night and talk tracking theory. But the main thing is, if we're training a dog to track a white-tailed deer, one of the things that needs to learn is the interdigital scent. And I noticed, I see a lot of people asking the cost, and I'll tell them it's $29.99 a bottle shipped to your house. If you see us in an outdoor,
that was a lot of questions coming in asking that.
Yep. If you see us at an outdoor expo, you'll get it a little cheaper. It'll be minus the shipping. But it's $29.99 shipped to your house. Shipping's
so
included.
Leland Shelton is asking he asked what the cost is. What are your thoughts on training hunting dogs with it instead of a tracking dog? Side note, Kenny may not like this question. Hey, I don't mind the question, but right. Honestly, I have trained some deer dogs and hog dogs utilizing the same methods we train tracking dogs. Right. And they turn out pretty good.
Right.
So
I am not a dog, a deer dog trainer, so I don't know how to answer that question. I think I would go about it a little bit different, but I think it would work. But
yeah, and it depends. To me, it depends on. Just like a deer dog, some of them won't take a wounded track. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
He was talking about using the tracker ID to train a deer dog.
To actually train a hunting dog, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's not. It's a scent that's not going to be present on an unhurt deer. It's not injured.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you will, as a biologist, you're going to have interdigital scent, but you're not going to have that
pheromone
scent.
Yeah.
Right.
That
and that's what
chemical,
we use to
that chemical makeup of the pheromone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So couple of questions. Vicky Church says, do you sell all 4 hooves as a package?
No, I don't. I'll tell you, we probably could if we requested that, but I'm sure that'd make the bottles go up a little more. Because as we get those hooves in and they go up to Smokey, he just knows what we have. He's not going to sit there and divide them out and say, here's all 4 hooves and here's 4 bottles. No, we don't do that. And
I don't even think, me personally, I've never seen it make a difference when you say not using the tracker ID on hooves. They don't to me, they don't make a hill of beans if you use tracks from different deer in your tracking shoes.
Right.
Just doesn't make it doesn't cause a problem.
Well, if you really study if you really study the pheromones and how it's broken down into the 4 categories, and then you break it into the subcategories of signalers and then into declining health, once you research the science behind it, you find that it's not what people thought for so many years. But a lot of this science, a lot of these studies, more recent studies that break it down that far, have been in the last 5 years. So that information just isn't readily available. Well, it's a health status. That's how, I mean, you as a biologist, especially like herd animals, why do
Right.
they kick that? How do they know to kick that animal out of the herd to the outside? How do these, like on National Geographic, you see these lions going after the weak animal? How do they know that
Right.
animal is sick? It's
Right.
through pheromones.
Right.
And then people say, well, they don't believe in interdigital or the pheromones, because an elk doesn't have an interdigital gland. They still release pheromones. Bears
Right.
release pheromones. Hogs
Right.
release pheromones. So,
Right.
People release pheromones.
Exactly.
yes, people, plants. So when you
Yeah.
have broken vegetation, a plant releases pheromones.
Right. Right. And I see, I think Randy Vick asked about, is it illegal to sell deer parts? There is, the way we do this is, right now, currently, Smokey has his sales list, and right now, nowhere is his interdigital lure outlawed. Uh, just some urine-based scents, so we can sell in every state um, right now.
I
That
think
could change.
I think he was talking about. I'm not sure who asked it, but about selling some legs or hooves.
Yeah.
He was
Now, I
talking
think,
about selling the actual hooves.
yeah, if they're not processed, there's a lot. You can't bring them into the state of West Virginia. You're not supposed to.
Yeah. Well, you can't bring them across the state lines down here
Yeah.
if
So,
the bone is still in them.
right. Right. So, but yeah, I'm always happy to talk. In fact, I talked today with a tracker from Missouri that had some of the same questions. Pick up the phone and talk to him. Going to be sending a bottle out there. I think we're in about 30 states now, which is kind of awesome. But it's kind of taken it by storm. It surprised me. I just thought it might be a training tool, actually, to help everyone, but people with new dogs that didn't know about getting hooves prior. This is a great substitute. So, and
So
we're doing.
This is a good
Go.
comment coming from Brandon C. A worry that he has would be spreading CWD.
I have that worry also, and as a wildlife biologist, I don't want to go down that wormhole about my personal beliefs about CWD and what the end result's going to be with that and why it's out there. CWD is a concern, but we've never had anybody proven that it's transferred by interdigital scent. It's how to say it, most of the time, the science that's out there saying it's transferred from the spinal column as a deer decomposes. It's transferred from urine. It's transferred by saliva, from nose to nose touching. And then that prion is constantly in the soil there. But we've never had that. I saw an article the other day coming out of Colorado where they are starting to study interdigital and see if it's spreading CWD. But
right.
Yeah.
So we have a big thing or a lot of questions coming in about the Blood Trails app and if we're going to utilize it. So tell us about the Blood Trails app. We are partners with Tracker and Shane Simpson.
Yep. Shane's a good guy.
And it's so I haven't experienced Blood Trails. I believe the system is down currently.
Kinda. I'll tell you what we did. We went through last year fully operational, and Shane and I had talked, and actually some of my guys are vet trackers for Shane on Tracker, and as we went through, we started finding out that the app. Maybe in the future will be the way to go. Okay, but it wasn't working with the push notifications. And I'm talking across the board. I'm talking Blood Trails. I'm talking Tracker. It was hard to get a tracker. There's a lot of negative feedback on ratings out there about how hard it was to get a tracker. So we took a step back, and I could tell you we're probably going to go old school, and we're going to have to do a lot of education, but we're going to be a web-based app. It's going to be a web page. We're getting ready to relaunch here in a couple weeks, and it's going to have a lot more features than you can find on an app. But the neat thing is, it's going to send a text and not a push notification. So you will actually get an SMS text, which is readily available if you have very poor service, cell phone service. There's some other things were going on. I talked with the developer business partner today. We should be up by the middle of July. As a tracker, you will be able to build a profile, put pictures up, put pictures of your certifications, keep analytics all on your own. I guess you call it your own page or dashboard.
Are you going to verify these certifications?
We would like to be able to do that. But then again, I'm thinking, okay, people that are going to lie about their certifications probably aren't going to be a very good tracker. And if we get any poor feedback and it's a buildup, we're going to put them off the site. But I'm trying to think how to work this so I'm not excluding people, because that was something.
I think there needs to be some exclusion, and that's my issue with another format out there. Is you pay $25 and you can take your Chihuahua that's never left the couch and be put on a list.
So last year we did a lot of one-on-one interviews with trackers to determine if they were trackers. And that's my main concern is, are they a tracker? What kind of dogs are they running? We asked very specific questions. But I also understand that people need to break into tracking. And I know like Shane's tracker, he's very strict with it, which is a great thing. But how do some of these new people break in? Kind of like with the free tracking pages that we got started now in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. How do we get these people to break in?
Through an apprenticeship program.
There you go.
These lists, and I'm just going to put this out there, these lists I feel should never be where someone is training their dogs. The work needs to be done before they ever get on the list. Okay. And I think, years ago we didn't vet like we do now. I mean, we've got in Florida alone, I think we were up to 170, 180 trackers. We do a lot of vetting now. We have an apprenticeship program in place with quality mentors, and it doesn't mean that they have to go on every track with them. Ralph mentored a young guy that was 5 hours away from you. And he is a phenomenal tracker now.
Right.
And my issue is some of these lists out there, they're not doing that. And it's going to cost someone a trophy of a lifetime when there was another team that had the experience that could have got it done. But you get these, rarely do we see problems with the dogs. It's problems with the people. And that is vetted through that apprenticeship program where we get to see the character of the people. And, just paying money to be on the list, I think it's counterproductive for what we're trying to do with the tracking community. I don't think anyone wants to keep someone from tracking, but we have to provide a quality service to the hunters. And that's why us more veteran trackers need to take these young guys under our wing and just be honest with them. Hey, you're not ready at this point to be on a list. And I think that is how we are going to better the tracking community and better the customer experience, or the customer experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I also don't think that a lot of people, it's kind of like the mission, or should be the mission statement. People like a list, they get aggravated or they get their feelings hurt because they feel like somebody's picking on them and not moving them up the list. Everybody needs to remember we're out there to provide a service to the hunter. That's it. Without the hunter, there is no tracking, and
Right.
they need to have the best service. And we found that getting out of hand at our vetting things also cut down the drama.
Right.
Yep.
And it gets nasty sometimes. Well, it's between the trackers, and
Right.
that we had to cut out. We got had so many trackers and so many calls coming in. I mean, it's a full-time job during the season, and we've got a ton of people moderating and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
That gave us the best results.
Yep.
Is keeping and vetting the trackers. And there are some trackers that they don't get moved up very quick, and it's not the dog. It's
Right.
attitude or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes it just don't work out very well.
Well,
and that's one
Perfect.
reason why I was more, or Ralph and I both were more receptive to working with Shane, as he does have a vetting process and he has that provisional tracker. And I'm not telling you how to run your list. I'm just speaking on what.
right.
You know,
Well,
I've been involved with the Florida Blood Trailing Network, which was the second blood trailing network in the nation. Mississippi was the first, and we started like 2 weeks later. I mean, we've been working this list for, I don't know, 11, 12 years. You know, and we've grown over the years. We've adapted. We've made changes. We see what works, what doesn't work, and we've seen over especially the last, probably say 10 years, maybe 15 years. About every 4 or 5 years, you see a huge influx of people, you know, joining tracking, and then they fizzle out, you know, and then you get all these guys that claim they want to be the cool kid, and they got a tracking dog. They're trying to get on every list there is, and their dog won't even find a biscuit.
Right. Oh, 100%.
You're gonna hurt Mike's feelings.
We want to have the best trackers involved. Okay. I think sometimes, and it comes down to an honesty factor. If a person is willing to say, I'm a first-year dog, I'm not, I just need some gas money, I want to learn this, I don't see a problem with that, as long as that's listed on their profile. And that's what we're talking about. That I'm a first-year dog. And I know the Ohio Deer Trackers list, which Joe Tenney's highly involved with, is like that. It's broke down. It goes from experienced dogs all the way down to first-year dogs, and it's color-coded and listed like that. And I know they've made some changes, but it's a good. I really look to Ohio on some of that and how they've run that over the past. But with blood trails, it's. There's so many trackers out there. Last year, and we got feedback. We've got ambassadors in different states, and we're going to be setting up more ambassadors that's going to give us feedback. Like, hey, this tracker just doesn't have a good dog, and I'm one of those people, and our people are that way, that we're not afraid to tell somebody, you're going to have to prove out. Please reapply. So we are setting up and have set up an ambassador program. And have relied on those people to tell us who's out there. Because I'll tell you, I know some guys in Ohio, and I know a couple guys in Kentucky that have never passed a tracking dog test in their life. But if I was going to call somebody to track my deer, I'm calling them.
Yeah, and it's not so much that as it is. So I'll be honest. Shane has reached out to Ralph and I about going down the list, and I will tell you this, there's been a couple of people that I told Shane, I said, look, I cannot recommend them. And it's never the dog. It's
right.
This guy has shown up to multiple tracks stumbling drunk, and we get a lot of complaints.
Exactly.
I can't put my name on that.
Right. Right. And and it happens in every walk of life. You're going to have people like that. And we are putting the infrastructure in place to know those people, but we will be up and running July 15th timeframe. We'll make that announcement. And like last year, Shane and I I mean, we spent some time on the phone and we just said, hey, you know what? There's room for both of us. We have a little different concept on how it works. And we're just going to go out and serve the tracking community the best way we can. And maybe it's with a little different idea. But the main thing is we do want the best dogs. The cost, there is no cost for a tracker to be on our site. That was a misconception from last year that we always heard, oh, they're charging a tracker. No, there is no cost for a tracker. There is a cost for the hunter to try to get a tracker. I mean, I can't finance this thing for free out of my pocket. It's a service to the hunter to find a tracker. And so there is a $10 cost. We are talking about even refunding that if they're tracked. That was a big complaint with our app, with TrackR. Hey, my track never got picked up. So what do? Do you keep their money and go on and say it's just a cost of getting on our app or our website, or do you refund? So we're looking at that, and maybe, it's $10, but we still get that complaint. Nobody picked up my track. So we're looking at, maybe doing a refund there. In the long run, I'm never going to say never about costs to trackers. As we grow and get bigger, and server space costs so much to store all this information, if people want to store X amount of pictures, analytics, and all this on our site, it may have to be a minimal per year fee. And when I say minimal, I'm talking like $10 to $20. I don't see.
Yeah, and people doesn't realize just how much that costs. I mean,
it's a lot.
Web space is not free.
No, it's not. And I got tackled on that last year when I wasn't afraid to say that. At some point in time, we may have to charge. Oh, well, don't use blood trails. They're going to charge. Well, I don't know too many other businesses that do their business for free. And we're trying to hook up hunters and trackers. And I think in the long run, people will see ours is going to have our Blood Trails TV hooked to it, which will have our TV or our YouTube streaming show we're putting out this fall called The Recovery, which is the story of tracks. I think it's going to be a great thing. I know we got a tracker out there that keeps telling, well, it's not up and working, I'm not using it. And we're doing some redo because we saw the app thing just wasn't working itself. And what people don't know, we had a pretty good rating. We were like at 4.6 out of 5 last year. But if you get down below 4.4, Apple can pull your app. Now, Google, it takes a little more. So if you start watching these and they start dropping, you could get your app pulled. You may have $100,000 in that thing and get your app pulled, and you're not going to make your money back. So we were like, let's not go down that route. Let's do a web-based app. So it's a website. We're going to do our best to teach people how to put that on the home screen of their phone and use it. It's going to take a little work, but we'll get it done.
Yeah, and I want to touch on it, like Randy Vick was saying, and I've seen him say it other places, and other people are saying it. Hey, I'm not getting any tracks from these apps, but there's not an app out there, a tracking app that's been out more than one season. Yeah. And like anything else, it takes time for this to grow.
Yeah.
Yes, they're trying to overtake something that we've, like for instance, Florida Blood Trailing Network. You better be on your game to overtake what people already know. So they got to come in with a new product that it just isn't here yet. It might be, but because we've got such a following on the Florida Blood Trailer and Georgia, that's where people go. Not to say all of them, but they got to put in the advertising time to get it brought up, ranking wise.
Right. And Randy Vick says, in short, put more emphasis in handler training. A good handler can make a mediocre dog look good and vice versa. And Randy, that's what we're doing.
That's right.
That's why we created what we created. That's like last year in Fargo, we had a handler only seminar. No dogs. The only dogs that were there for snake avoidance training. We're going to Pennsylvania in August. It's a no dog event. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen the flyer and seen the topics we're going over, and I have, you guys probably seen, I've shared a couple of PowerPoints that I've been creating, and I could share them here too. But we are training the handlers because that's what's needed. Rarely is it a dog problem.
Right. Exactly. I see that here constantly at our school. Constantly. Sometimes I wonder if the dogs should stay at home and we should run a boarding school for people.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. We talk about that all the time. It's a lot of handler stuff.
That's right.
So Andrew brought up a good point, and Shane does have this, and I don't know if Blood Trails will, with it being web-based, having it where the app tracks you, and he may be in Missouri today and Colorado tomorrow.
Yeah. This will do that. This
Okay.
will do that. You're going to, every time you sign in, it's going to put your location right on the map. So if I'm in West Virginia today and Ohio tomorrow, it's going to show.
Right. So Travis Wilson said he got on state list his first season after training all spring, summer, passing UBT1, the UBT1 test, gave him the confidence needed, being on the list. But yeah, so, and I know what state he's talking about, and we are actually making changes to that state this coming season. So, and what we do with our apprentices, they're still allowed to get tracks. Obviously, they have to get tracks in order to get the experience.
Right.
However, they have to be in communication with their mentor, if possible, before and after and during, if they have any questions or something comes up. And that's how we. And they're not just tracking with their mentor. Like, they can track with anyone. In fact, we want to hear feedback from everyone. We're trying.
Right.
So it does two things. You're developing that tracker and you're building the relationships within that network, and right here in my area, we have 11 trackers within an hour of me. And most of us all tailgate 80, well, I'd say 70 plus deer a year, with some of us consistently over 100. So although, some people, they don't want to grow the tracking community because they think there's too many trackers in their area, but with more trackers comes more tracks, more exposure. So that's something to think about also.
Right.
So let's touch on this. Being willing to travel to events, regardless of the organization, makes you a better handler. You get to talk to a lot of great handlers and different approaches to growing as a team. I want to touch on that because I've been to numerous events, and rarely at this point in my tracking career, I guess you'd say, do I get anything from the actual speaker up there. And it's because it's the same thing over and over everywhere you go. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, you can only cover so much. I mean, we're going to cover a lot more than we ever have this next one. Where I take more from it is the sidebar conversations outside. When everything's over, before the event, after the event, we're hanging out, we're eating, we're sitting around a campfire, whatever. That's where I get more out of it than anything. Now, I'm not saying that would be the same for a new person getting into it. They're going to learn a lot. But don't just show up for the speaking and leave. Hang around. Hear the stories.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Because a lot of times you can learn from another tracker more so than the featured speaker. I mean, I've been there, done that in several walks of life here, several things I've done in this life. But that is a good point.
Yeah. So and you know, like I said, I'm not just trying to sell our seminar, but we are putting more into this one than we ever have. And I think people that were at the Fargo one will tell you there was a lot. I mean, we learned some stuff there. There were some topics that weren't as exciting as people would like some of the first aid and, you know, stop the bleed. But that's stuff. I mean, that's real. I mean, I've had some catastrophes on tracks. But this one's going to be big. And Randy's right. That's what we need. We got to get more education out there to the handlers.
Right.
So we've been going on a long time. I think we've had some great conversation here. I think a lot of questions have been answered. You know, some people may not agree with what I have to say or what Shon has to say or what Ralph has to say, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to better the tracking community, and that's what it's all about.
Yep. Was there anything else you had, Shon?
Hey, I'm good. I appreciated the opportunity to come on. I hope it answered a lot of people's questions, and I hope it was a good show.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that, Ralph. I didn't think to ask if you had any questions for us, Shon, because you know, I know we slammed you with them.
Oh, that's what I was here for, that no holds barred conversation, you know, which I enjoy because it's amazing how many misconceptions are out there.
Oh,
but
I do have to touch on this comment right here real quick. Travis Wilson says, tracking/handling aside, no class, seminar, or test will fully prepare you on how to deal with the general public, at least in my neck of the woods. He has not been on a test line with some of us. And actually, this next seminar that we're having a whole section on how to deal with the customer, because that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. We provide a service. It's customer service, and
right.
You know, so, and we did touch on that in Fargo. Actually, we quite a bit, especially the drunks. You know, how to handle things, and but we appreciate you, Shon. I know it probably wasn't easy coming on knowing that there was a risk of coming under fire, and you know, some of it was. I mean, but I think you did a great job at explaining things, and you know,
I don't mind any time answering questions. My number is on our Facebook page, Longspur Tracking and Outfitting. I'm usually easier to reach by text, as you know, Kenny. And, and then we'll go from there. But I'm always willing to talk, and I don't care. I don't care if you don't like me. If you've got a question, you're more than welcome to get a hold of us.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. And, yeah, and we'll have you on again sometime. If
I wanted to mention we're having our test day this weekend, first ever ABTA test in West Virginia. Having Joe Tenney come down, and he'll be running 3 tests, and I think Brandon C will be there observing, and we're running a ABTA WGT day. So looking forward to that. First out-of-state third-party testing system to give tests in the state of West Virginia.
Yeah, so and you're doing dual testing there. So
yep.
And you have your judges doing your test. We have our judges doing our test, and it's separated.
Right.
You know, so it is possible to do that.
It is possible to do that. And I want to say this. Joe Tenney's scheduled to take one of our tests. If he passes a WGT test, he'll be the first triple certified dog in the United States.
Cool.
Yeah. So it sounds like we need to get Joe Tenney on to see how that went afterwards.
There you go. He can tell you that. There you go.
All righty. Well,
appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
All righty. Well, we appreciate everyone for participating, and we will see next week. You know, is a holiday week. Ralph, do you want to have one, or should?
I am going to be out of town, but I'll have my computer, and that's up to y'all.
Okay, we'll get back to everyone on that. We may change it around a little bit, change it to a different day.
I'm gonna be at the in-laws, so you probably need to rescue me.
Okay. Hey, your wife might be listening.
That's right. 38
All righty.
years, she used to it.
All right.
All right.
Thank you,
y'all.
guys.
See you later.
Thank you.